Let's begin this. The order and roll call of the Woodland Park Planning Commission regular meeting revised, 7 o'clock on December 12, 2019. Shall we call for the order?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We'll begin with John DeVoe.
Here.
Jeff Watson.
Here.
Lee Brown.
Here.
Ellen Carrick.
Here.
Vicki Good. Here. Ken Hartsfield.
Here.
Jerry Penland.
Here.
Charles Schrader.
Here.
And for the record, Mr. Chairman, Peter Scanlon is absent tonight.
If the large audience would like to join us for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Approval of the minutes for November 14. Any corrections? Changes? Nobody? Motion to approve?
So moved.
I second it.
Second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Item 4, public hearings. Item A, the request for a flood hazard development permit adjacent to East Fort Creek by J. Garbins is postponed to January 19th. Okay, so we'll item B. The PUD amendment zone, I think it was ZON zoning 19-006. The Sturman PUD amendment innovation, I'll get that right, Innovation Park, requested by David Havas, applicant, and Domini Properties property owner, for approval of a PUD amendment to change the use from light manufacturing, industrial R&D machine shop to automotive vehicle repair and maintenance shop, and a single-family residential on 3.9 acres zone PUD and legally described as Lot 1, Innovation Park Number 1, 5697 Trout Creek Road, and it's quasi-judicial.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Planning Commissioners. I will do a brief PowerPoint here, and we apologize for our technical issues this evening with just having one monitor working and a laptop, but we have, so those of you who are sitting off to the left of the dais may want to move over here into these other 3 chairs or
Sally?
so. I can see.
Sally,
You can.
we only have 2 people. They could sit there
Yeah.
and watch the monitor.
Would
If
you
you'd
like
like
to do that? Okay. We did provide them with paper copies,
But that
but
way they can see the PowerPoint.
they
You're
won't be
more
able
than
to
welcome
see
to
my-
take these chairs here and watch.
my
Just like
pointer.
to do that. Yeah, don't take the pie. There'll be a war. There'll be a war if the pie's gone.
Okay, so this is the final PUD plan amendment for property that is located on Trout Creek Road, shown by the star. It is part of the Sturman PUD. It was annexed into the city in the year 2000. The Sturman PUD does encompass the yellow line as shown here on the west side of the city. The request is, the purpose of this application is for a PUD amendment to change the use from the original Sturman master plan in 1995 and then revised in 2016 on Lot 1, Innovation Park, filing number 1, and this property is approximately almost 4 acres. The original use upon annexation in 2000 was light manufacturing, industrial, R&D, machine shop, and Mr. Havas this evening is asking for automotive vehicle repair and maintenance shop with an education apprenticeship program, as well as 1 single-family unit on the 4 acres. And the reason it is here this evening is that plan changes, PUD plan changes in general character or land use are required to be reviewed as a public hearing and approved by the Planning Commission. So this zooms in a little bit further into the surrounding properties. The red star denotes the 4-acre tract just off of Trout Creek Road, Highway 24, and the signalized intersection. This aerial also shows Charis Bible College to the south. To the north is Andrew Womack Ministries headquarters. And to the further west is the Pike National Forest. To the east is the Gold Hill Ridge Line, and then you can see our community further east where Highway 24 and 67 come together. The zoning map shows you that the Lavender area is planned unit development. Here's the red star. And you can see that it is also adjacent to a property that is in Teller County. To the east immediately, not immediately to the east, but a little bit to the east and then immediately to the west. The properties where Gold Hill and the telecommunication towers, that is currently zoned agricultural. And then so is a portion of the AWM property north of here.
So, Sally, your pointer's not working on the screen, just so you know.
Oh, thank you. That's interesting. I'm doing okay.
Do you want me to-
I'll be a little bit more descriptive then. Thank you. This aerial is a zoom in on Lot 1 Innovation Park, and it's outlined in red. You can see it's north of Trout Creek Road. There's also a floodplain, Jenkins Creek floodplain, Zone A, to the south. To the immediate west or left of this is Sturman Parkway, and it is a gravel road currently. And that gravel road is required to be improved by Andrew Womack Ministries within the next 6 months. So by this next summer, this road will have engineering, design, drainage, paving, all completed. It will still remain a private road, but it will be brought up to city standards within 6 months of their closing. And they just closed a few weeks ago, on the Sturman property. Andrew Womack Ministries owns the property to the north, or the top of the screen, and then to the right side it shows the residential lots 2 and 3, which were also part of Innovation Park subdivision, which was subdivided in 2014. I'd like to draw your attention to within Lot 1, you can see the white roof of a building. That is the location of the new auto repair shop, and it is approximately 2,400 square feet. And then just underneath the one, you can also see a white rooftop. That was an old mobile home that was located on this site, and that has since been removed, but that is the general area where a single-family home would like to be constructed. And also in this location is a well, a domestic well, that is also used by the mechanic shop. There is a septic system that serves the automotive repair shop. that is in the graveled area just to the south of the building, or the southwest of the building. Next slide is of the subdivision plat, a snapshot, which shows Lot 1 outlined in red, Trout Creek to the south, Sturman Parkway is Tract A for this plat, and then lots 2 and 3 both have single-family homes on them, and they are not part of this amendment. So that plat was approved and recorded in 2014. This is the site plan or the final PUD plan amendment that was submitted, and outlined in red shows the 2,400 square foot building. This is a Morton building. It was used as primarily a machine shop for Eddie Sturman. This transition has a lot of positives to it, similarities, but it is a different use. You can also see the 4 parking spots and then a fairly large gravel area. One of the conditions is to identify on the PUD plan the specific area for residential, which is labeled in blue, and it is bisected by the red line. So the commercial will be adjacent to Sturman Parkway on the west side, residential on the east side, and the terrain is such that it will sit up above. And then the first 125 feet off of Trout Creek Road will be designated as private open space. So this is actually more than what is required for a small lot of 4 acres. And this will protect the frontage of the site with open space and natural landscaping. The next slide are a few photos of the Morton building, and the applicant intends to improve the exterior of this building so that the white doors will have a faux barn-looking door, a stone wainscoting, new lighting, which will be a gooseneck type old-fashioned light that will meet our standards for full cutoffs and the Kelvin, 3,000 Kelvin or less. And then it will also receive a paint job, so this will meet the city's design standards. The lower interior shot, you can see how this building is fairly tall. We'll be able to accommodate 2 lifts for auto repair, and there is also in the floor, I'll point out the drain, and there's already a oil sand separator system in place, and there is a condition that is required for the owner to maintain that system in good working condition. The other exterior photo, I'm sorry, it's not really good. I was taking the photo into the sun, but it is looking directly south along Sturman Parkway down to Trout Creek Road. So it's about where I'm standing, about 150, 200 feet down to Trout Creek Road. And another condition is that within 3 months after the paving and the new curb and gutter drainage improvements are done, the owner is responsible to pave this section of his driveway on Lot 1 so that all the vehicle accommodation areas for parking and access will be hard surfaced. On the interior, I should mention there will be some minor remodels, a new door for customers to be able to use on this west side of the building, restroom improvements, and then there is a teaching or classroom area that will be utilized as well. So with regards to the findings and in compliance with the PUD section 18.33, the purpose for a PUD is to provide mixed use, and this is a classic example of mixing both residential and commercial on the same lot, and yet identifying those areas on the lot that is purposely for the residential, one single family, and the commercial use, as well as protecting the open space next to Trout Creek Road. The improvements to the surrounding properties, it's just the improvements that will take place with Sturman Parkway in order to improve access. The density is within the PUD standard, which is no more than 2 units per acre. This will be 1 unit on 4 acres. The parks, trails, and open space aspect, of course, the open space is protected in the front of the lot. As far as parks, there is no requirement for a parks dedication for this. The trails, there is on the PUD for Sturman a requirement at some point to install a trail, so that will be implemented when future development occurs on the Womack property. Streets and easements, Sturman Parkway is a legal access as well as an easement for utilities, and the utilities, at least the water well and the septic, are already in place. As far as the use, that is what we're here for tonight, is to amend the uses. The heights and bulk all fit very nicely into this site. There are no agreements or covenants associated with the site. As far as the development schedule and phasing, Mr. Haveis is planning on getting his remodel done as soon as possible and hopes to be open and up and running here this spring. And at some future time, the single family will be developed, or a zoning development permit. There's no timeline on that at this point. The stormwater, sanitary waste, and water is served by a well and a septic. For sanitary waste, there is a condition that should either one of those systems fail, then it is our policy to require the owners or the landowners to tie into the city services. There is currently a water line in Sturman Parkway, so that would be fairly easy, although payment of a tap fee would be required. As far as the sanitary waste, that will be a little bit more difficult, and the utilities director would review it at that time because the closest sewer is way up at the intersection of Trout Creek Road, which would require a lift station, or way north, at least maybe a quarter mile to a half mile to the headquarters. So that would also require a lift station. Again, the utilities director has the authority to make exceptions and allow the septic to be repaired. Parking and traffic, the 2 bays require 4 spaces, 2 spaces for each bay, and that is being accommodated on the site plan. The traffic, based upon the 2 bays, and employment is going to be maybe up to 30 trips per day, very minimal. And Mr. Harvey's can speak to his business plan and share with you exactly how he intends to operate the facility. Landscaping, fencing, berms, and buffer areas, those are all in place. If future fencing is proposed, then a fence application would be submitted to the city, but at this time there is no proposal for fencing. Signage, a little bit of signage will be at the driveway to the site, just a very low-key freestanding sign, and that will have a separate permit. Lighting, I've already addressed. And as far as outside storage, there's a condition that no junk vehicles or outside storage is allowed. The employment projections and cost-benefit analysis, there will be one main mechanic and a mechanic's helper. So just 2 people basically working in this facility, plus the students, and really only a handful of students. As far as the cost-benefit analysis, this is a commercial. The commercial property will be taxed as a commercial use. When the residential is constructed, it will be taxed at the residential use for property tax, and then there'll be some collection of sales tax on parts. The dimensional standards for the commercial side for height is a maximum of 35 feet. The building currently is 25 feet, so well within that. The residential is a 30-foot height maximum measured at mean grade. The setbacks for the commercial is set at the existing building, the main building, for an 18-foot front setback, which is quite comfortable, 8 feet on the sides, 25 feet in the rear. For the residential, 25 feet front, 8 on the sides, 25 rear. With the amount of property, these should not be any issue to be able to meet. Minimum frontage, there's lots of frontage along Trout Creek Road. In fact, let's see, over 235 feet. Parking, the 4 spaces exist. And then the natural area, I was going to calculate this, but it's at least an acre of the overall site. I would think it's at least a quarter of that site. Oops. Let me see. A PUD is permitted conditionally, so we also do an analysis of the 11 criteria that the conditional use permit standards call for, and there are 11. Many of these we've already touched on, but I'll briefly say, as far as the need, the applicant's business plan and marketing knowledge believes there is a need, and especially for the type of work that he does, which is on very specialized high-end vehicles, so your Porsches and Ferraris, maybe? Yes. So this is a very tailored use, and as far as mitigation of impacts, we don't believe that this will cause any negative impacts to the neighborhood or the area. It does meet our standards for health, safety, and welfare, should not harm surrounding property values since it's well designed and well, quite a bit of property with very minimal use. It will harmonize with the neighborhood. It meets our city plans. The comprehensive plan supports economic development. This is a new business in our town. It will meet all the city regulations, including the entitlements to the amendment for the PUD. Traffic is very minimal. As far as the environment, should not impact the soil, slope, streams, or cause any other hazards. It is served with its own self-contained utilities. And then public danger, should not be any public danger as far as the use and the experience. And with aesthetics, the building will be improved. So staff finds that the 11 conditional use criteria are met, and staff recommends approval of the final PUD plan. First condition is that the site plan be modified to include the building envelopes for the commercial and residential areas, identify those. Innovation Way is shown as Sturman Parkway, to correct that, to add standard language about the PUD maintaining performance standards, add the notes regarding the dimensional standards for both residential and non-residential use, and then add these conditions to the plan so that they are memorialized on the document. And then item number 2, it deals with the Sturman Parkway paving and the condition that the applicant pave his driveway within 3 months of the Sturman paving, and of course that's weather permitting. That the hazardous waste potential from auto repair, oil, antifreeze, tires be handled according to industry standards, and that the floor drain be maintained routinely. Number 4 is dealing with the water well and the septic system, that those be maintained in good working system. If the well does fail, then we require that they be tied, these developments be tied to the city's service, which is in Sturman Parkway. The septic, we will evaluate if that should happen. And then lastly, no outdoor repair of the vehicles or storage of junk vehicles. So that concludes the presentation. And Mr. Harvest, would you like to come up?
It is hay buzz.
Hey, boss.
There's no, but that's all right. Well, thank you, everybody, for coming out tonight to look at my plans and what I've been up to out there and what I want to do. Thank you for the staff. You guys have got an outstanding staff. They've done nothing but help me. So thank you for both of them, and thank you, Laura and Sally, for helping me. I've worked with a lot of city councils and a lot of things with other projects I've done, but this has by far been one of the easiest, I can tell you that, so thank you. How did you grow those 5 trees in here? That I really want to know that. Other than, and how'd you get them all different kinds? I mean, it's really cool. What I propose is it's a high-end automotive shop. I had a Bosch Automotive Service Center out in Arizona for 24 years. They're hard to get. It's a German manufacturer of aftermarket parts, but Bosch is the industry standard for all automotive systems, for ABS, computers, safety systems. I managed to get to the level with Bosch Industries as number 30 in the world of their master technicians and their electrical platform servicers. So our shop was a 4-star out in Arizona. I'll be able to transfer that here to Woodland Park as well. They allowed me to carry out the name for Bosch Service, at this facility as well, which is really highly recognized in the European world of automotive repair is Bosch Service Centers. They're one of the top service centers that you can go to. So that's one of the credentials that I'd like to incorporate with that is a Bosch Service Center. Again, it's already I'm already qualified, so all it would be is just certifying this, and they come out, look at the property, and make sure the inside is up to their standard. They have really high standards for German, and it was within the first 2 years I was able to go from a 1-star to a 4-star service facility, which means I did a lot of work in 2 years to get it to a 4-star, and I carried that to the next one if they'll allow me to keep the standards up and training. And I'd like to begin to teach other kids how to get into that line of car repair, which is the way cars are going now. They're more computers than they are anything else. So I want to be able to teach maybe underprivileged kids and kids coming off of addictions and things like that another way to make a living and begin to focus their attention on something else. So I'd like to offer that to them, and apprenticeship programs and things like that. But that's kind of where I'm at right now with this, and I'm waiting on this amendment to go through, and we can begin to move forward if we're approved. So that's pretty much any questions I'd like to answer.
Okay. At this point, do we have any questions from the staff or the applicant?
I'm always concerned when I see the word hazardous waste and septic. Okay. I'm always concerned that there's going to be drainage from the hazardous waste facility part into the septic system, the groundwater and things like that. How is that being mitigated in this case?
The only thing we have that's hazardous that comes out of a vehicle goes directly into containers, which is put into other containers, which are set apart from the ground itself. So it goes into it's a dual containment system for everything we take out of a vehicle. That includes brake fluid, coolants, antifreeze, any oils go into a separate holding facility. Tanks is what we carry on and stuff like that. Nothing goes into groundwater. The only thing that goes into the groundwater is anything that we would rinse off as mud off the vehicles or something and wash the floors down at night. But the floors basically are, they'll be redone to like a mirror finish. So we have a really tidy shop. So.
Thank you.
And David, can you explain the service that you use for disposal?
Yeah, the service we use is it's a oil recycling program that comes by as an on-needed basis. Usually once a month they'll come and purge our tanks and take everything away. Same with antifreeze. All that goes out. That's done by either Safety Clean or there's another company that does it. Any tires, they have a minimum pickup of I think it's 50, I'm not sure, but they'll come pick them up as we need them if we have tires. And so those will be dealt with there's a company out of Denver that will pick them up. All we need to do is just have them just make the call, and they'll come down on a regular basis and take anything away we need to. So.
Other questions?
How do you identify the kids that you're going to help?
Well, they would go through an internship according to where they're at in their life. A lot of times I need to sit down and have a one-on-one interview with them and find out, do they really want to change their life? I've got another nonprofit organization that's called the City of Help. And what we do with the City of Help is we take people through a program, and once they complete that program themselves, we get them into a vocational program. So they have to earn their way into the program. But working with people in Colorado Springs and through our organization, they actually have to want to get into the program. But if they meet the criteria and they have the heart to learn, they can be accepted in 3 months, 6 months, and then up to a year.
So you work with an organization in the Springs that identifies?
Well, I own the organization I have is called the City of Help. So we work with them, and also Teen Challenge. There's other U-Turn, a lot of other organizations that we will let them know that programs are available if kids show an interest that they'd like to be in the automotive field.
So would these be local kids?
Sure. Yeah, I'd contact the high schools here and automotive programs, anybody that we could, let them know that they could submit an application to come into an apprenticeship program once we're up and running.
Thank you.
Mrs. Town has questions for staff.
Sure.
Okay, just a few then run through. The question of access to water under Sturman. Is there a right to get? Is there a right to access that line? I'm just saying, even if it's physically, it would maybe not be that many feet, but is there a right to get to it?
It's a public main, so it's under city control, and there is just an application process to be able to pay for your tap fees and the ability to
even though it's
tap.
a private road, it can.
Oh, yes.
You can connect under that to it.
Oh,
Okay.
yes.
All right, that was
It's
In other words, there's an easement.
Yeah, there is a utility easement associated with Tract A, the entire tract.
All right. I want to ask about the parking spaces. I guess it's based on 2 per bay. I was looking at 1839-030. Is there a different one that applies in auto repair, which is 3 spaces per bay? There may be some other one that's applicable. These are, these a lot better than I do. I'm sorry, 1839-030, auto repair, 3 parking spaces for each repair bay is what it looks like.
Must have missed it.
Okay,
So there is ample room to add more.
I would think, because, you always need space to put the cars.
Yeah.
There's more than enough space on the property to expand. We need to get at least to where we're up and running, and then we can expand, especially once the road's done. We can include the extra parking as well.
So he can add those
I
spaces.
would think we need to add that as a condition to be put into the
Thank you
put into
for
the
that.
plan.
I'm going to
submitted.
expand upon that.
All right. One thing just to ask about, the existing setback from Sturman is 18 feet. I assume that was just because the building was here when it was annexed back in 2000, and it just is what it is.
Yes.
I believe the condition has indicated that the dimensional standards, including setbacks, are going to be written onto the plan.
Yes.
Wouldn't it make sense to write into that the normal setback of 25 feet, but 18 feet where there's an existing building that's marked, rather than suggesting in it that new buildings, if ever were approved, would also be 18 feet back? Because this is just an exception that it's grandfathered, I guess.
That's certainly possible to do that, but PUDs allow for the property owner to set their setbacks.
No, they could, but I think the only reason 18 feet's here, it's not because 18 feet's a good idea with hundreds of feet every direction. It just happens to be there.
That's right.
And it's saying it should be 25 feet, except we don't want to move. We don't want. Please don't feel you need to move your building.
And it's certainly fine to be able to add that language, that it's set at 18 feet. However, the standard is typically 25, but for this PUD amendment, 18 feet is acceptable.
It's not written here, but in the chart you list dimensional standards.
Yes,
And what's listed, it says the dimensional standards will be included.
yes.
I don't think that's built into here. I would suggest that when you list those dimensional standards, you list 25 feet. It'll be right on it that there's an existing building 18 feet, which is approved, and its site location will be marked. The last condition proposed is no outdoor repair or storage of junk vehicles should be allowed. The conditional use standards refers to damaged or junk vehicles, and also the motor vehicle parts as not being outside. I think it would make sense to pick up the
expand
whole
that.
thought rather than just part of it, because
That's perfectly acceptable, sure.
and see the one other one, if you agree, 1C of conditions, add the following statements: all activities and uses shall be authorized and be operated to meet the performance standards. I think what we just reword, I think we mean to say all authorized activities and uses shall be operated according to the performance standards, not that all authorized uses are permitted.
I mean, not that all uses are permitted.
No.
Authorized uses will be operated in accordance with performance standards.
Yes. So we can modify that
Okay.
as well.
On one other one. In your review, you mentioned, and you have the direct sheets up now, private open space. I didn't see that in the package anywhere. Well, how is that indicated? Is it, I may have just missed it or something.
This was identified, I guess we drew it in pencil on the one that we had in my office, so I'm sorry it didn't get established on the copy that went out to you.
Would that be an additional condition 6 then, that the plan will identify a private open space 125 feet from Trout Creek Road, something of the sort?
Yes, it's part of condition 1A, and I just said the residential and commercial, so an open space. So it certainly is balance. It's the remaining property after you carve out the residential and the commercial.
Okay, there's no dimensions, and you folks will watch that the amount that put in
Yes.
matches what we've talked about
David
here.
and I measured that blue line to be 125 feet from the southern property line.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions?
Mr. Chair. I had a few questions. You talked about a trail across the PUD. Will that future trail be crossing this parcel? Or it's
No.
not?
It will be a part of Tract A.
Okay. And then on Tract A, looks just west of the building in red, looks like there's a shed.
Oh, yes.
Is that to be removed? What's happening with that?
Yep. It's going to be moved to the other side of the property and get it out of the way of the Sturman
To
Parkway.
be relocated out
Yep.
of that right of way?
But within the commercial site.
Yes.
Okay. We touched on parking, and I think Mr. Brown found
Yes.
3 per 6. I'm a little curious, you have 2 employees, you have, don't know how many students would be on site at a time.
Yeah, for right now, I don't know that we would have any students, and we may not even have that until we have the parking done. It's going to be a while by the time they get the renovations done, the outside, the inside done. So it's going to be a bit, I imagine the parking is going to be done before too many people show up, so.
And the parking's on existing concrete slab? is
Yes,
that
right
correct?
now it is, yeah, there's
And
plenty.
then a driveway would be established to the new paved Sturman's Parkway?
Sure, yeah, once that's paved, yes.
I understand the city does not allow unpaved parking spaces, is that correct?
All vehicle accommodation areas must be paved.
So it looks like there might be level ground that could be utilized as parking but is not paved, so that could not be used for parking, is that correct?
Right.
So any repaired vehicles that are waiting for customer pickup or waiting to get into the bay would have to be accommodated in, I guess, the 6 parking spaces we talked about,
Right.
or additional parking would have to be established
At that
to
time.
accommodate that.
Right.
Is there any limits on how much paving could be accommodated on site? Or what future development might happen?
There is not, other than the terrain and the natural area.
Okay. So if additional paving area or impervious surface was created, there'd have to be drainage studies associated with that,
Yes,
and no,
a drainage ladder and detention.
doesn't sound like you have too many junk cars sitting around.
Ours get fixed pretty much the same day and get them out of my life.
Okay.
In and out.
'Cause I wasn't quite sure what the definition of a junk car was,
Yeah.
but
Not too
we'll
many
leave it for...
junk Mercedes and stuff like that.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like that's your
Yeah.
clientele. And then I guess I do support the additional parking and the comments on the setbacks. I think 18 is not enough for future development if any should occur, so I'd support the existing building to stay, but any future development be within the 25-foot would be reasonable in my mind. And as long as we clarify the open parking space, open park space.
The private open space.
Private open space. I'll defer that to staff. Thank you.
I've got a question.
Okay, go ahead.
With the fact that it's going to be on a septic system, when a mechanic washes their hands, a lot of the times they will have oil products or other contaminants on their hands, and that is going directly into the septic system.
Goes through a grease trap first.
You could,
Has to have a grease trap to go through without a motor.
Yeah, it's already.
You have a
built
grease
into it.
trap?
Yeah, it's already.
That's
set
what
in.
that center thing,
Right.
that'll all tie into that. We had to do that when we built ours.
And are there any requirements for maintenance on that, like a certification from the health department that it has been pumped out in the last year, 2 years, 5 years?
It either, I'm not there, my knowledge. They either work or they don't. When they get full, you have to dig them out. And it's just basically the sand or whatever and redo the sand in them, but they go for quite a ways. I mean, there's really, they filter it out just fine, so it's a good system.
When they get full, the floor gets deep, so
Yeah.
they have to have.
You know
that done.
immediately when they don't
Yeah,
work, yeah.
yeah,
They'll
this
change
change all
out
of a
the
sudden the
sand
water
and
level
clean.
starts coming up on the
Yeah.
floor.
Is that one other question? You talked about tire storage up to maybe 50 before they're picked up, and
Yes.
that would be inside the building,
We would have accommodations for the corner for 50 of them if we needed it, yes.
inside.
Yes.
That was part of my intent when I noted vehicle parts outside storage was not, needed to be expressly included as well, pickup tires.
Very good.
I have a couple questions. Is this going to be a public repair facility where people come to get their vehicles repaired?
Yes, we offer it to Teller County, yes.
To what?
We offer it to this county, Teller County, yes.
Okay, so in other words, people can come and get their high-end vehicle repaired there?
Yes.
And you're also going to have classes for education eventually?
Eventually, yeah, we'll, probably evening.
Pardon?
Evening classes.
Sure.
Yeah.
So when we talk about how many cars that's going to require for the students, we talk about the commercial standards for a building, we talk about education, proper restrooms for more than one restroom, all the OSHA standards that have to be completed in there, that's all going to end up being part of this, I'm assuming. Where's that going to be addressed?
Well, the design of restrooms is based on building code. So
Okay, it's a
they have to
commercial,
meet
it's commercial.
the standards for
Okay.
that.
I'm just making sure you know what you're getting involved with, that's all. And certainly, I agree, I concur with you're going to need more parking spaces than 4. And that's good. That means you got a lot of business.
We should do well, yeah.
Okay. Anybody else?
Are you moving your business from Arizona to here, or do you?
Well, I already have, basically, it's all in a storage lot in Colorado Springs. So it's ready to be moved up here. I go down and talk to it every now and then, see all my tools and stuff, but it's ready to find its new home as soon as I can.
One other thing I forgot. What about sound for testing? If you have high-performance cars, I know we addressed that issue at one time at Woodland Park, where they had to have a soundproof room and that for the neighbors and that kind of stuff. I don't know what you,
We don't have any high-performance
if
testing.
you're getting something ready for Le Mans or something like that.
Yeah, if we get to that point, we'll have a separate dyno room, but right now, it's just
Sure.
Mom and Dad's Mercedes and.
All right.
we're
I can just see some neighbors would like the sound, some probably would.
Yeah.
Any other questions? At this point, is there any public comment out there in the public? No public comment? Okay, we'll close public comment. Anything else you'd like to add?
I don't believe so. Thank you all for coming out and
Okay.
talking with me.
Anybody else with any final questions? Okay, if not, then we can encourage a motion in a second and discussion. What would you like to see as part of this?
All right, I I'd suggest that we consider a motion following the recommendation proposed by staff with the following additions. 1A, which reads, identify building envelopes for commercial and residential uses, would add, and locate open space. That's, stop me here if that's not okay.
That's good.
In 1C, within the quoted statement, take the word authorized and move it between all and activities and delete and be later, so that it will read all authorized activities and uses shall be operated to meet the performance standards set forth, etc.
Mr. Brown, Commissioner Brown, can I get you to turn your mic on so that we make sure we have all this on recording? Thank you.
All right. Just revising it so it will read, all authorized activities and uses shall be operated to meet the performance standards, and continue on as written. Adding a note F under 1, add notes requiring at least 6 parking spaces. And in item 5, revising the language to read, no outdoor repair or storage of insert damaged or before junk vehicles, then after vehicles insert or vehicle parts. And I guess then with those changes to the staff's recommended text, I'd move we approve the recommendation.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Would you call the question?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, beginning with Jeff Watson,
Yes.
Lee Brown,
Yes?
Ellen Carrick,
Yes.
Vicki Good,
Yes.
Ken Hartsfield,
Yes.
Jerry Penland,
Yes.
Charles Schrader,
Yes.
and John DeVoe.
Yes.
Motion passes.
I think that that open space would be a great place for a exotic car show.
We could do that.
Okay.
You know, I'd always wanted to take at my other shop in Arizona, we lived out on 20 acres. I was going to take a Porsche and put it up on a pole with the lights on at night and stuff, whatever. So, you might see one in the woods there somewhere.
Make sure the lights are downward facing.
300
As long as you got full cutoff, we're okay.
with shielded lights.
Quit while you're ahead.
Don't say anymore.
Thank you.
Thank
We look forward to the opening.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
It looks like we're moving on to reports.
The only item I have to report before we adjourn to treats is that our next meeting will be January 9th, 2020.
And we may talk about a flood hazard development plan.
We may, yes. And we will also be, hopefully have the draft for the code amendments for single-family and multifamily zones by that time.
Very good. Anybody else have any items for the good of the order?
What is the end date for the moratorium?
The 9 months began at the end of October. So 9 months from that time.
July. If we have nothing else to discuss except to eat pie and talk, then we are looking for a motion to adjourn.
Nobody can do that.
We have to vote.
So moved.
All those in favor, aye. So adjourned. Charlie, reconsider. What was she going to do on Thursday night? Watch football games? I saw you in your meeting this morning.
Oh, yeah, I was building department. for
I
the
know
county.
I know Jim Harris,
Okay.
Jim China Harris. I've known him forever.
Yeah, then I'll probably do it.
And his wife makes me soup. I'll ask for a certain soup. She'll make me a big pot of soup. She's a good soup maker.
Yeah.
She really is.
Soup yet, but,
Yeah, she makes all the soup for the place there.
yeah, she cooks in the kitchen.
Yeah. I've known those people for a long time.
Yeah.